I have a theory. I have a theory for you, Chris and audience. I want you guys to tell me what you think. Now, it's all over the place, but I'm gonna bring it in, and I want you to tell me what you think. I think all Sooner fans and everyone should really be keeping an eye to what's going on at Tennessee. This is why I say that. Not only because Josh Heupel is a former OU quarterback, but the way things are going for them this year, I feel like will be replicated by Oklahoma. And this is why. So it took Tennessee only a year to really figure things out and go. Now, when Heupel got there, there was a mass exodus of players leaving that school. They had 35 transfers his first year there, from September 20 to July of 21. 35. Now, we talked about this in Oklahoma terms and how we lost a good 40% of our players because of either graduating, going to the pros, or transferring. We lost about 15 players leaving. The average in the SEC that year, because that was the big year for transferring and everything, and then the super seniors or whatnot, was like 12. So Tennessee like almost tripled it. And how many players that Heupel left right when he started working there. And so looking at the recruiting classes, Tennessee wasn't really putting together much that special. Pruitt's 2-3 years there, basically, he had ranked 21 class, 2019 class, 2018 class was 21st, 2019 class was 13th, and his 2020 class was 11th. And then when Heupel got there, his 2021 class was 22nd, and his 2022 class was only 17th. But what did he do? What did the administration do? What did the school do? They said, be patient. Let him get the guys that he wants, and they'll do something. And so you notice in the classes that Tennessee brought in, heavy on the offensive side, heavy on the types of fast guys that Heupel likes for the up-tempo offense he's running. This is why I think that OU fans should really pay attention to how Heupel's doing things and expect something similar here. We look at our class this year. We've got a ton of defensive players. Like it's about a 60-40 ratio, and that's not common for us here at Oklahoma. It's usually the opposite direction, or more 75-25, because of the type of offenses that Riley was running. If Venables after 2 classes continues to get these defensive guys that he wants, and Levy's able to get, like you said, the fast receiver, the receiver that can that's a possession guy, and then putting in like Evers or Jackson Arnold throwing that ball, or even Dylan Gabriel coming back next year, which I think is a possibility.
Yep.
There's a great chance that this team will be able to take 2 Big 12 championships before we move over to the SEC. Am I crazy in thinking about that?
That's not a theory. That's factual. I mean, because look, the other sample size that you can look, the other sample or example that you can go to is Ole Miss. Look at what Ole Miss did the first few years that they were there. They were middle of the road, middle of the line, and then boom, all of a sudden it was on and popping, right? And you see what they're doing now, right? So the whole thing is that the K-State game, you're a few plays away from winning that game, right? TCU, Texas, those were anomalies in itself, right? But when it comes to that K-State game, you were just a few plays defensively and offensively from winning that game, So it wasn't like you went out there and you got beat. You definitely saw some of the sloppiness, the lack of execution, and the lack of attention to detail. But at the same time, you beat yourself more in that K-State game than anything. Okay. Yeah. But like I said, the improvement is going to be key. And even when those new guys, PJ and all the rest of them come in, you're still going to have to give them time. You're just hoping that, hey, with another year under their belt, can this defense, because you're going to see, I don't think you're going to see a mass exodus, but I do think you're going to see some guys obviously go off from, you're going to see maybe 1 or 2 guys possibly enter their name in the draft. I think the key thing is, can you keep Mims and can you keep Gabriel? I think Gabriel is obviously the guy that you can keep. You're going to be losing your Braden Willis, who's, to be honest with you, he's probably our best player on this team right now, or he's played the best. But at the same time, next year, you should be able to improve. Guebu and Stutzman should have that position down. the linebacker position down. You should be able to see a Kobe McKenzie and possibly a Kip Lewis or whatever be able to get on the field alongside with a Canic as well. You should see a lot of those guys be able to rotate in and out and be able to do some things. Defensive line should be really nasty next year. You should see them be able to actually be multiple instead of coming out here and having to run either a 4-man set or the 3-3-5, right? So, I mean, I think looking forward with what BV is trying to do, because one of the things you got to remember about this defense, and we haven't really seen those guys. I mean, coming in to the season, I thought Stripling could be that guy who could possibly be that freak on that defensive line or around that defensive
Stripling
line.
was the dude that I looked at too as the dude that I think was going to really step up. Him and Bowman, because Ty really talked about Bowman. I thought Stripling, but he's been hurt, and I
he's
think
been hurt. But that's the whole thing. But when you look at this defense, I watched the JD Piquel. Okay. Before he was on 3, he broke down that Clemson defense and he was showing you some of the different things that they do. It's multiple for a reason, because there's freaks at different key positions, especially that cheetah role, right? And when I say freaks, I'm talking about some gifted freaks. I mean, he's having 300-pound defensive linemen do some dropbacks, and they're able to be successful at it. But that's just the type of athletic guys that you
have to have for that.
And he's had those guys, and so it's going to take us some time. But once we build that depth here and we build that camaraderie, we get those type of recruits or whatnot, we're going to be just fine with whatever scheme that we're running. And offensively, like I said, I just think that Levy's approach to it is going to work. Just got to be that much more patient to see this payoff.
No, I agree, and I think that piece, like right here coming in, you know, like Hank's mentioning a lefty transfer returning for year 2. Hell yeah, I'm all in for it. And Jonathan makes a great point here. Bringing in QBs from another school that they're really high on before with their systems. That's exactly what we've got. And Levy's system is way more complex than what Riley was doing here, and that's just facts. A lot of people talk about. I've heard a lot of talking heads break it down and the complexities of it. It's a really good system that Riley does, and it's very complex for defenses, but his wide receivers and quarterbacks is not, which is awesome. But this is exactly why I mentioned that, and I talked about paying attention to Tennessee and how they're doing it, because I do see the similarities 100% because of the way that the with the new AD at Tennessee now and the way that Oklahoma's always been ran, they're run a hell of a lot better than they used to. And I think the benefit that Tennessee has a little bit more than what Oklahoma has is that Heupel was a head coach for a year before, for a couple years before taking that job. So he has a little bit more experience, and he was able to figure out the mistakes and everything as all first-year head coaches make or whatnot. So let's jump into some of these comments and answer some of these questions here. Primetime is asking about the D-line and Grimes not getting sacks. I don't know what's going on with him. Do we need to put him on a milk carton or something? Like, what's up with Grimes? He has been quiet. I don't think I've seen anything about injuries or anything, but
I mean, he's been quiet. Redmond has been quiet. Dylan Grimes, for goodness sake, that's who you should put on a milk carton. I definitely look to see some of those guys possibly be moved inside next year. But for now, I mean, it would be nice if we could get that pass rush going.
No, I agree, and that's kind of one that I'm hoping that we get more pressure, especially on Iowa State. This is an opportunity to really get pressure. Tackles for loss are great, and Venable's system is built great to get you those. If you haven't noticed, we're in the top 10 in tackles for loss this year. Our problem is third down conversions. We give them up too often. We need those tackles for losses on third down, which usually is because you got a sack. So that's what we need, or knockdowns. Another question here from Jimmy. Should we get an experienced linebacker or defensive lineman from the portal? That's a good question. I did see from OU Insider, Parker Thune mentioned that a defensive lineman from Notre Dame is coming to the game on the 5th to be recruited. Let me find out the name for you all really quickly while we're sitting here, but I don't think that that's a bad idea. I think that's something that we probably should, I guess you would say, start looking at.
That's something that you'll look at. I mean, especially with the amount of names that we think are going to come from Texas A&M, that's definitely something that you should possibly look at.
I mean, I would love for us to be able to steal some of their guys. I just don't see them really losing very many players, even as bad as things are. It just doesn't feel like it. So
Yeah,
here it
and
is. Transfer defensive lineman coming in. It is Jacob Lacey. He's at Notre Dame. He's a senior. I'll pull up his profile, and I'm actually, you know what? I'm gonna see if I can figure.
He's
out
already entered the portal.
Yeah, he entered the portal before the deadline, so he's actually available. Let me see if I share and present my screen. What happens? I'm kind of curious. Not that one. Let me move you over to this screen. Let's see what happens. Let me share it. We're going to go into the shared screen look. Boom! That's good. This is the player that supposedly is looking at Oklahoma and showing up for the game on the 5th. He entered the transfer portal. He's a senior, 6'2", 285. He's initially he's crystal ball to go to Kentucky, but the rumor is that he's coming to visit, do an official visit at Oklahoma. And he entered the transfer portal on the 9th, so he won't play this year. And as you can see from his note here on the tweet side, he's bounced. So the question is that will he come here and will he play next year? Because he'll probably have to be a super senior. So 4-star, he's 3rd in the state of Kentucky, 15th defensive tackle, and he's a top 200 player. I don't know how I feel about it, but we'll see. But we probably should start looking at some other players. We got my boy Matt in here. He wants to talk noise. Iowa State 20, OU 17. I think that's pretty funny. I appreciate you coming in and trolling us. It's always great to have fans in with that. Hank mentions about Kanik and Lewis on the field at the same time. I'm sold.
No, Kip Lewis made a lot of plays in that. In that, what game was that? The spring game. I think.
Oh, spring game too. It's Texas.
Yeah, he just got to put on some more weight. Other than that, I think he's really instinctive and he's fast around out there. I'm excited for him and to see Kobe McKenzie as well. I think you're gonna see a lot of them next year. Hopefully.
Same. I'm hoping we see a lot of him. I do want to see some Kobe McKenzie, but I kind of want him to stay redshirted because I want him for like 4 straight years. Where he's actually starting. Because I think if he redshirts this year, he starts next season. And then he has 3 years to 4 years of starting. If we play him some this year, we'll only get him for like 2 years and he's going to bounce. Because, he may actually, bounce after 2 years regardless. But I do want him to be like a starting freshman for the team. All right, I think with that, we're going to wrap this bad boy up. We're at the 1 hour mark. Thank you all for tuning in here on Unfair Sports. Chris, let the people know where they can find you.
Obviously, guys, again, at Kchris with a K. You can find us at the Horns Down Pod on Twitter. Then you can find us on YouTube, the Horns Down Podcast. You can find us on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts at. Like, subscribe, follow. Definitely check out our content. You won't regret it.
Yeah, hit the like and subscribe button, share because sharing is caring. I think I'm going to try to do these on Wednesdays. I think this is going to be my day to get a live stream up for you all. Bring in some folks, bring in Chris on a regular basis. We could chop it up in preparation for the next week. So with that, I'll have some videos later this week. Probably one more preview for this game and some of the 5 things that I think we should look out for when this game comes up. And with that, we will chop it up with all of y'all in a few days. Peace.